At the edge of a quiet, forgotten valley stood a crumbling wooden farmhouse, surrounded by dry, lifeless land that hadn't seen rain in seasons. On its weathered porch sat Ginger, an orange cat with tired eyes and calloused paws, staring silently at the empty fields before her. The dawn sky blushed with a faint golden hue, casting long shadows over cracked soil and broken tools. Beside her, her little kitten Milo slept curled on a faded cushion, unaware of the weight his mother carried. Hunger lingered in the air, and silence clung to the walls like dust. But in Ginger's eyes, beneath the weariness, flickered a quiet fire. As the first rays of sunlight touched her fur, she made a vow, unspoken but certain. She would turn this land into inside that broken home. Silence clung to the walls like dust. The dim morning light crept through a cracked window, falling softly on empty shelves and a cold, lifeless stove. Ginger's elderly parents sat quietly in the corner, her mother coughing into a worn blanket, her father staring blankly, eyes dulled by years of struggle. There was no food today, just a chipped bowl with a few crumbs and the faint echo of hunger. Into this silence stepped little Milo, his tiny paws patting the wooden floor, eyes still heavy with sleep. He looked up at the empty shelf, his belly growling softly. Without a word, he padded over to Ginger and curled beside her. She wrapped her paw around him, holding him close as sunlight slowly spread across the floor. In that moment, surrounded by emptiness, Ginger made a silent vow. She would not let her family suffer anymore. As the first golden rays of sunlight filtered through the cracks in the farmhouse wall, Ginger stood alone in the old wooden shed, her eyes scanning the worn-out tools scattered across the dusty floor. A bent shovel, a cracked watering can, a rusted rake, all relics of a life that had once thrived here. She picked them up one by one, her paws trembling, her breath slow and steady. Outside, the earth was dry and tired, but so was she. And yet, something stirred inside her. Not anger, not fear. Something stronger. She looked out at the barren field and whispered a promise to herself and to the wind, barely louder than her own heartbeat. I may have nothing, but I will build everything. For my son, for my parents, for this land. And with that, she stepped into the morning light, not as a stray cat, but as a farmer, determined to grow life from dust. The earth was dry and unyielding, untouched for years, but Ginger faced it with quiet determination. With every strike of her rusted shovel, the soil resisted, and when the handle snapped, she dropped to her knees and dug with her bare paws. Her breath grew heavy, her paws blistered, but she refused to stop. Then, from across the field, came little Milo, wobbling under the weight of a tiny cup of water, his eyes wide with pride. Ginger smiled for the first time that day. She drank, let him sip, then stood again, wrapping her wounds and gripping the shovel tighter. Hour after hour, she worked beneath the rising sun, carving lines of hope into the barren land. And as the golden light of evening wrapped around her, she stood tall, dust-covered, aching, but undefeated, ready to make this land bloom again. After days of sweat, aching paws, and whispered hope, the orange cat knelt once more beside the silent soil. She poured the last drops from her watering can and watched in stillness, her eyes tired but tender. The field remained quiet, the earth unmoved, until a flicker of green broke through the brown. A single sprout, fragile and bright, reached toward the sun. Her heart skipped. She leaned close, touching it with trembling paws, tears rising as the weight of her work met its first reward. Just then, the kitten came bounding across the field, eyes wide with joy. Together they sat beside that little leaf, mother and child, in the middle of the same land that once promised nothing. And in that moment, one sprout became a miracle. The once barren land, so dry and silent, now buzzed with quiet life. Each morning, the orange cat walked the rows she carved with her own paws, watering roots, guiding vines, and planting tiny seeds with care. The sprouts became stems, the stems bore leaves, and the leaves reached for the sky. Little by little, green conquered brown. The kitten danced between rows of cabbage and marigolds, laughing as butterflies led him on playful chases. Bees hummed near sunflower blooms. Even the old broken house, once heavy with silence, now echoed with soft voices and footsteps as her elderly parents stepped outside, baskets in hand, ready to help. The field wasn't perfect, but it was alive. And the orange cat, once broken and uncertain, now stood proud among rows of tomatoes, spinach, and hope.